And here is a lovely bloom from Disocactus crenatus Chichicastanango. It's got that beautiful creamy complexion. It's got nice substance. For a species, it's pretty nice. I like it. This is a really pretty sight to wake up to. This is Climax. It's a Fort Nobar hybrid. Blooms regularly for me every year. I get at least a half a dozen or so flowers. The plant itself looks pretty nice. You know, the stems are green, a few more buds. So yeah, this is one of my favorites. Delicate pink, blooms regularly, the plant looks nice. What more can you ask for? Well, today I came out to see another huge space rocket. I took 4 blooms to the show, and here is another one. And as you can see, this thing is humongous. I'll have to take it off, bring it in the house, and measure it to see exactly how wide across it is. So this is a good 9 inches across, 9-10 inches. So a nice large to extra large. Had so few blooms this year that I really have to stop and enjoy each one for its own individual beauty. So there you have it, space rocket. Here is a beautiful bloom. This is Cattleya, a Nebel hybrid. Looks quite a bit like Flirtation. I really love this one. I've only got one bud on the plant this year, and this is it. This is the flower. And I'll let you see what the rest of the plant looks like. It's a really nice, healthy plant. Lots of stems. No buds, very few buds. And it's gotten quite a bit of sunshine this year. It's here under my tree. This is a deciduous tree, so there are no leaves here during the winter, and I haven't moved this all year. It gets quite a bit of sun, and it takes it pretty well. We've had a lot of rain this year, so apparently this cultivar enjoys the rain. We're back from the show, and this is my Hatiora cylindrica. It's also known as Bambusoides. It won a first place at the show. It was all very beautiful looking, covered with these yellow blooms. Still lots of buds still here. It was leaning way over, and I gave a big cutting to somebody, and now the plant's a little more straight, so I didn't quite mind giving up the cutting. See if I can find a single bloom for you to see. Kind of like a yellow teardrop. Well, good morning. It is Mother's Day, May 13th, 2023. This is the site in my backyard. I'm finally starting to get some epiflowers. We've had several on, this is a species. You can see what they call crenated branches. It's Disocactus crenatus, called that because of the unusual shape of the branches. And you know, it varies from branch to branch, the amount of crenation. Some don't have a lot. Well, actually it does. But this new branch does not. So it's variable, and it has these really pretty white flowers. This one's done. This one's about to open. We saw some in an earlier video clip. And we came back from the Epiphyllum Society of America show last week. And this is my first place prize winner. That's Ripsalis agudoensis. And it just really grew like crazy. I took a couple of cuttings off of it at the show because other people wanted bits of it, and so of course it's always nice to share. And it's such a pretty plant. I mean, it's kind of chunky and kind of neat. I really like it. And we've got some other buds in the background there. Rococo is getting ready to bloom. This is one of my favorite Watts hybrids. This is called Nuage, and that in French means clouds. And this was, as I said, a Watts hybrid. Galen Pittman grew it out, bloomed it, and decided to name it. It's just so billowy. The form of the petals is just so lovely. So I'm really glad he decided to register this and share it. Even though a lot of people don't like whites, I think this is a spectacularly beautiful white. It's got really nice substance. It lasts pretty long. This is just opened this morning, but I'm sure it'll be here another day or two. So that is Nuage. Unfortunately, the branch this is growing on is sort of cracked. So I am not going to pollinate onto this because I'm going to have to cut this branch off and restart it. But there we have Nuage. And then we have had this blooming for several days already. This is the third day this bloom has been open, and it's just starting to droop. This is Don Oro. It's a really spectacular butterscotch orange. You couldn't even call it yellow. It's a really deep color. And we've had a really cool season this year, so I believe it's even deeper in color than it was last year. But it's so lovely. It's got that really beautiful burnt orange throat. Let me see if I can lift this up so you can get a better view. Look at that. That is spectacular. The one thing I mean, it's a beautiful flower. One unusual quirk about this one is it doesn't have any pollen. So isn't that odd? But it's a beautiful flower. And I did use the pollen from Nuage to pollinate these flowers. So we'll see if we get seed. And then here's another old cultivar, a Fortinobar. I think it's Fortinobar. This is Pegasus. It's an extremely hardy plant. You'll find it in many people's collections. It's got the really pretty lighter edging to the inner petals, and the outer petals have an orange stripe. So it's a nice multicolored bloom. Very big size. This would be a large to extra large. So that is Pegasus. And the plant, as you can see, is a nice grower. It doesn't spot. It's got beautiful looking branches. Another big bud up here waiting to open. This one's going to drop. And you know, that's pretty common with these epiphyllum hybrids. They'll put out a lot more buds than the plant can support. And some will open, and then you'll occasionally have some that you can kind of tell. They'll get sort of anemic looking at the base, and you can tell that's going to drop. So it's just the way it is. That happens. Here's another one that's going to drop. But these are going to open. Maybe in a few days to a week. A couple of nice buds there. So that is Pegasus. An oldie but goodie. And we have had Climax blooming for several days. So this one is sort of on the way out. But I've got another nice bud. It's about to open, and a couple more in the back. We've had a couple that have already bloomed. I pollinated those with Flirtation. So my thought is a very vigorous hybrid like Flirtation with great growth and a huge flower with very, very heavy substance. I'm crossing it with this variety, which blooms for me every year. and it's got a little bit smaller flowers, but they're also pretty nice as far as substance. So I'm hoping to get something that will bloom every year and have nice substance, and we'll see what colors we get. And you can see this plant is also a good grower. And I don't get plants that grow like this a lot out in this area because it gets very hot here in the summer, like 105 to 110, and down to freezing in the winter. And I obviously cannot bring this plant in, it's just too rangy. But it does okay down to freezing. Here we have wild toucan, another great grower, just covered with buds that should be opening in the next week or two. This blooms for me every year. It just seems to go crazy. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous purple flower, very large size. So we'll see that again when it's blooming. And here we have what some people affectionately dub Mr. Stinky. I really don't detect any scent from this flower, but this is primary ignition. It's a Jerry Mattiette's hybrid, and it blooms pretty heavily every year. You can see I have quite a few blooms right now, and some that are already done, and more buds to open. So that is primary ignition. And here we have, this is the 17th of May. We've got a couple of Doris Pittman blooming. They are facing the opposite direction from my camera. So look at all the buds I have to go on this still. A lot. This is one of my favorites. It really blooms reliably every year. And it is super gorgeous. That combination of the pink and the peach. So pretty. I'm going to leave these on the plant and not pick them and bring them in because they'll last a couple of days if I leave them attached to the plant. If I remove them from the plant, they'll be dead in a few hours. So I like to enjoy them as long as possible, even if it means I have to come out in the yard to look at it. So there is Doris W. Pittman, named for Galen Pittman's mother, Doris, and Galen was the president of the Epiphyllum Society for quite a few years. A very knowledgeable expert about all the cultivars. Very great contributor to the society over the years. Here we can see the other bloom. Kind of behind the wires there, just as beautiful as the first one. So you couldn't ask for anything prettier than that, could you? Gorgeous. Gorgeous. And I have quite a few more buds to go. Look. Here we have, I think this is going to be the last bloom on this plant. This is Epiphyllum crenatum. You can see the crenations or notches in the stems. It's very heavily notched on most of the stems. It does throw out a few stems that are not notched. These new segments or branches, whatever you want to call them, that are growing here don't really have any crenations in them. Well, they have a few developing here, but not as strongly as, say, a branch like this. And of course, we've got this pretty white flower. This is used a lot in hybridizing. This used to be regarded as an epiphyllum species, and now it's disocactus or disocactus. It's a very pretty creamy white bloom. So that is Disocactus crenatus. Chichi castanango is the subspecies. And I have just a ton of buds on wild toucan. Should be opening. It'll make a fine display once they decide to pop. There's a couple down there that are about to pop open. Here we are at the side of the house. And opened. This is my stormy weather, a couple of blooms that are just about done. But I have another bud back there, and I have one that just opened this morning. So there is stormy weather. But this particular bloom has a little white flush at the edges. So I think it must depend on growing conditions if the white shows on there or not. The description for the flower does not include white. It just says purple and red with an orange midstripe. Here we have another bloom on Casper. Even though this is the north side of my house, because it's almost midsummer, the sun in the morning is, this is still opening. The sun in the morning is still hits these plants. In the winter time in the morning, they don't get any sun, just indirect sun, indirect light. But it's summertime. Well, here's another Casper. These are just opening. They usually open pretty nice and flat. And this, you know, I'm not sure of the parentage on Casper. I believe it's either Alpine White or Lola Leah, and those are both cultivars that have similar white flowers with a similar form. The plant is similar, it's kind of spiny. So those three in my mind are very similar. And we've got buds here on My Oh My, a beautiful red, so hopefully in a few days we'll see those. So here we have a couple of beautiful flowers. This is Satin Ruffles. As you can see, just beautiful. It's a George French hybrid. I just love the tone of yellow, very buttery. Not too dark, not too light. And the creamy white petals of this bloom are just delicious. And the petals themselves are not too thin, they're not too wide. They're very moderate, very beautiful. So I love this particular cultivar. It has very nice substance, which means the petals are heavy. They are not thin, they are not flimsy. They have nice substance is the term for that, and that makes for the flower last longer. Unfortunately on my plant, look at the branch that this came off of. This is insect damage of some sort. I had some kind of moths or something that came in and just infested. And here you can see a little better idea of the damage that they did. So I'm just disposing of this branch. I did wait for the blooms, but I guess this is an example of what we like to say about epis. They bloom if they think they're dying. You know, they want to survive and they want to produce seed. So this branch obviously was on the way out, and it bloomed from the two areoles at the end that were still left. So stress can induce flowering. And I'm going to take these blooms inside where I can enjoy them. Well, it's May 19, 2023. We have a few more blooms open today. Here is Pegasus. We've got the sprinkler hit it, and it's sort of trying to open, but it hasn't quite opened yet, that particular bloom. This one up here is still pretty. I think that one opened yesterday. Oh no, this is new from today. So there's Pegasus. You can see the subtle orange midstripe in there. And then we come over to Don Oro. We have a new bloom. Wow, this is such a special cultivar. I'm telling you, it's wonderful. It just glows. It's really golden. And then we have This was open yesterday, Epiphyllum crinatum, and we've got another bloom. So even the species, the flowers will last more than a day. And they bloom in the daytime. Here's a brand new bloom from today. We have a lot of buds on Doris Pittman going to open. There's some on the other side as well. Some up higher. Another one there. Another couple down here. It's another cultivar that I really love and would never want to be without. This is the second day this flower's been open. So if you leave them on the plant, they will last quite a while. If I had picked this yesterday, it would have been already dead. So it gets a little bit of extra sustenance from remaining on the branch. Same story with this one. So you can pick them and bring them in. At least that way you'll get to enjoy them in the house if you'd like, but they're not going to last quite as long. Here we have stormy weather. This particular bloom has a little flush of white at the edge of the petals. Same plant as the other blooms that we saw that were strictly red and purple. So there is a little variation from bloom to bloom on that cultivar. I think it probably depends on your weather. This is another one that blooms reliably for me every year. This is King of Siam. It's a Fort Nobar cultivar. Huge thing. Nice substance. Not really, not anything you'd call a gorgeous flower, but it's very impressive, very kingly and stately. Nice color combination, and since it blooms reliably, I haven't disposed of it because, a flower every year makes it worth keeping. And this I've been waiting to see. Been waiting to see this for many years. This is Norma Cantafio. Oh, that's a really, really pretty. It's registered as a yellow. This is a very pretty bloom, sort of a medium to large. I'd say it's probably 7-inch flower. It's registered, I think, as a yellow, and I've seen it bloom deeply yellow. This is more of a white with yellow. Well, I've been waiting for that plant to bloom for many years, so it had that bud, and I think it may have another bud, but I don't see the other bud right now. And that is about it for today. That's the way it is with epis. You've got hundreds of plants and maybe only, a dozen or half a dozen blooms on any given day in the springtime. So let's take another look at this one. Stormy weather. Really beautiful. That's one of my favorites too, and it blooms for me every year as well. So this is sort of a recap. When I make my videos, a recap of my favorite reliable bloomers, which I guess is worth something. So take care. We'll see you next time. And I thought I'd bring you back. It's a little later in the morning. It's around noon. This is pretty much, it's dried enough to where it was able to open on its own. I didn't have to do anything to it. I just noticed it was opening. So there's our beautiful Pegasus. I also have a collection of Echinopsis. These are intentionally hybridized for spectacular flowers. Mine are mostly Schick hybrids, which I obtained from the Huntington Library. This I got from the plant sale they just had about a month ago. This is called Nocturne. And I've got quite a few other buds here to go. These are distant cousins of Epiphyllums. And I have some that I've had for a while that are much larger plants. These I've had for maybe 10 years or so. This one here is a species. Well, good morning. It's May 20th, 2023, and we have a lot blooming in the garden. So I thought I'd take you through. This is the north side of my house. We have Casper, which blooms quite abundantly every year. Beautiful white. Lots of thorns on this plant though. Lots of dieback. There's another bloom tucked up in here. And we have my oh my, which has got loads of buds getting ready to burst into bloom. Not today though, maybe tomorrow. It's a beautiful red flower. We'll take a look at that when it opens. Then we'll move over past some of my rips to yellow tang. It's just a spectacular bloom. Very popular cover girl. It's been on the cover of the ESA Directory of Species and Hybrids. Okay, next we're going to move to meadow rose. I haven't seen this one bloom for a few years. My plant was sort of suffering and I restarted it from cuttings and now it's blooming again. Isn't that pretty? Meadow rose, and if you have Olympiad, which is also another George French hybrid, it's a very similar bloom to this, even prettier than this one. But this is absolutely gorgeous. Meadow rose. Look at that green throat. Completely stunning. And this is a medium to large bloom. They can get a little bit larger than that, but like I said, my plant is still pretty small. Still coming back from the brink. And then we looked yesterday at Norma Cantafio. There she is today. Lovely lady that she is. And we looked yesterday at King of Siam. Here is King of Siam today. Even though it's a huge flower, it's still okay on the second day open. Next, we're going to move to cute couple here. They decided to bloom next to each other, so that is Stormy Weather, and that is Tim. This is about my fourth bloom on Stormy Weather, and this is an interesting observation on this bloom. My friend reminded me that a lot that she had seen had white on the edges of the petals, and my first two blooms had no white edging on the petals, and my second two blooms had white edging on the petals, all from the same plant. So the first two were much darker, and the second two had the little lighter flush at the edges. So isn't that an interesting fact, or an interesting observation about this particular cultivar? It can bloom differently, and I'm assuming that might be related to the weather. Maybe cooler weather will bring out the lighter edging, because when it initially bloomed it was much warmer, and the last few days it's been cooler. So that's my guess. I don't know for sure if that's the case or not. So let's go to the backyard, into the tree area, and we'll take a look at the other blooming epis. First, I wanted to show you this. I'm very excited. My Rhipsalis clavata is going to bloom. I can see buds at the end of the little sections there. And I have two clones that are getting ready to bloom. So yay. And what do we see over here? Why, in addition to all these unopened buds, we've got triplets that opened up this morning. An absolutely wonderful cultivar from Evelyn Shiraki that I love. It blooms readily for me every year. It's a strong grower. Beautiful, huge flowers. I'm going to have a lot more flowers to come. I've got to prop that branch up so the snails don't get the buds. And then we saw yesterday, we still have Pegasus. The second day for this particular bloom. It's starting to fade a little bit. Not uncommon when you have really large flowers, they don't seem to last as long. And we still have Don Oro. Funny thing about this flower, it does not produce pollen. Isn't that unusual? I've been able to pollinate the flowers on this cultivar, but not obtain pollen from it. So I pollinated this with Doris Pittman yesterday, so we'll see if I get a nice seed pod from that. And here we have Doris Pittman. This is the third day. It's starting to fade a little bit. You can see it's got pollen falling on the petals there. And we've got another Doris back here. We have lots more blooms to follow. These two are starting to fade, but we have a lot more to come. So that is what's, oh, I have one more. This has been open since yesterday. This is my Crenatum. Oh no, I'm sorry. This is Carbon County, another Evelyn Cherokee hybrid. Really beautiful yellow. First time it's bloomed for me. So take care. We'll come back tomorrow and see what we have then. Well, good morning. Here we are again in my backyard on Sunday, May 21st. This is Frida Kahlo, blooming beautifully today. I just love her. This is my first Frida Kahlo bloom of the year, but I have quite a few to go, as you can see in the background there. And in the foreground here, she blooms nicely for me every year, in addition to being a gorgeous flower, very free with the blooms. Next we have an old Fort Nobar hybrid, Rococo. It's a really pretty orange, kind of an unusual. It's kind of hard to see because it's so overcast here today. We're having such unusual weather this year. It's supposed to rain this afternoon and it's May, and that's just unheard of in Southern California. But this is Rococo, a very beautiful bloom, kind of a watermelony orange with fuchsia flush in the middle, a green throat. It's really lovely. This plant has quite a few more buds to go also, and of course some that are dropping because our plants always put out more buds than they can sustain, and then these two look like they're going to go too. Not all of them make it to flowering size. Those two look like they're going to make it. So we'll have a few more buds on Rococo. Such a pretty little thing. This is a large bloom. I'd say it's about 7-8 inches across. And what do we see here? We have another nuage blooming. One of my favorite whites. I love the green throat, the nice substance to the petals. It's like what you would call a cup and saucer shape. Not quite a bowl, almost a bowl, but not quite. More like a cup and saucer. So here is wild toucan today. Those were the 3 blooming yesterday. And we've got another one in the back here. Kind of goes to waste back here where you can't see it. I'll probably take this one to my mom today. I'm going out to visit her. So let's just remove it. Okay, I got it removed. So now you can see this bloom up close and personal. Isn't that a gorgeous thing? So pretty. Wild toucan and Evelyn Cherokee hybrid. We're going to leave these 3 behind here. They'll be probably gone by the end of the day today. Luckily, our cool weather is helping most of my blooms last a little bit longer. So now let's go around to the back side of the house and see what we have there. Whoops, I was too quick. We have another couple blooms on Climax today. Such a pretty pink. These aren't quite as large as the initial blooms I got off of the plant this year. Still very pretty. Nice plant, very healthy looking. And guess what? I'm getting blooms on my Ripsalis clavata. And I can see the little spots where they're going to bloom all along the ends of the stems there. So we'll come back in another day or two, and I bet you we'll have a lot more blooms to look at there. Stormy weather. Tim, pretty bloom, kind of on the small side, so not much to my liking. I hang on to that plant because I had a nephew named Tim who passed away. So it has a little sentimental value for me. There we see satin ruffles again, day-old bloom. We've got another bloom from the same plant over here. I don't remember seeing this one yesterday. Beautiful thing, isn't it? So that is satin ruffles, a George French hybrid that I love. Meadow rose is still looking nice. Yellow tang is still looking nice. Here we have one of my hybrids. I don't know that it's anything unique or exciting, so I haven't registered it or anything, but this I've dubbed Hybrid B. I believe this is my Hybrid B. It's kind of got an interesting throat. It's a vigorous grower, so don't know what I'll do with that. It may end up being composted. I don't know, but I gotta let it bloom first. And we have another Casper. So it's a very abundant day for flowers. We're going to be having a my oh my here pretty soon. Okay, we'll come back tomorrow and see what we have. Well, I have this lovely tree in my backyard. It was here before we moved in. Unfortunately, it's so close to the fence and getting so big, it's knocking the block wall over. I'm not sure what I'm going to have to do. I'm going to have to call a fence person first and see if we remove the tree, is the fence salvageable? I'm not sure. And if so, I'll have to remove this tree, which will be a shame because look, it's about 30 feet tall. It's deciduous, so in the winter time it allows sunshine in, but the sun is at a low angle in the winter. And I keep a few epis in this tree year round, and a few species as well. Here my crispata is here. It loves it under this tree. And occidentalis. I have a couple of Hoyas under the tree here, in addition to the epis. So I don't know what's going to happen with this tree. I'm thinking it's going to have to go. And I sure hate that it has to go because it provides me shade in the summer. It keeps the yard and the house cooler. So if it does go, I may have to build a shade house out here, I guess. I don't know about going with another tree. It would take a while to get a tree up to a big size to provide shade. And one interesting thing about this tree, I know it's providing nesting area for some of the birds around here because we found little eggshells here broken on the ground. It's a pretty decent sized egg there, a couple of inches. And I find big giant bird poops on my plants here from time to time. So I know it's a fairly large sized bird, whatever it is that has a nest up there. I never hear any birds up there. I don't hear little birds peeping or anything, but I know they have to be up there. So that's my saga about my tree and my wall. I don't know what's going to happen. It's a shame that this tree was so close to the wall and they just left it there. It could have been, I think it was a volunteer. It could have been moved, you know, a little farther away from the wall, at least, you know, at least 5-6 feet away from the wall. But it was not, so that's the way the ball bounces. Well, here we are. It is May 22nd, 2023. Coming out into the yard, I have a lot of spent blooms. And I also have a couple new ones open this morning. This is Carbon County from Evelyn Shiraki. It is absolutely huge, luscious, and gorgeous. Look at the size of that beautiful thing. I think this is the only bud I have on this plant. So this is going to be it as far as the flower for this one. Look at the tube and the size. It's just spectacular. So that is Carbon County. Look at the buds here. So I have quite a bit of fun to look forward to on Doris Pittman. This is sort of fading. It's from yesterday. And that's about it out here in the backyard. So let me go around to the side of the house and we'll see what's back there. I know I say this about a lot of these blooms, but this is one of my favorites. 3 oranges. Look at the luscious color combination in this flower. It's absolutely delicious. Delicious, I say. So beautiful. And what I like about this one too is it's got really nice substance and the flower lasts for several days, especially with this cooler weather we're having. I think it'll be around for at least 2-3 days. This is My Oh My. It's a beautiful tomatoey red. And I guess I could say it again, it's one of my favorites. Most everything I have, I mean, I wouldn't keep it if it wasn't a favorite. So that's My Oh My, given to me by my good friend Gail Grassel, the cutting. And then back here, I see we have Spice Taquan. So there is Spice Taquan, another Evelyn Shiraki hybrid, one of that beautiful butterscotch yellow color. This has a lot of green at the base of the petals and in the throat. I'm going to see if I can get a little better view for you with a little more light. So that is Spice Taquan. Look at the green even in the back petals. Just a lovely thing. And check this out. This is my Rhipsalis clavata. It's developing pretty little white bell-shaped blooms all along the terminal edges of the stems. It's just starting to flower. I have several clones that I received from different sources, but they're all blooming right about now. So how's that for pretty? Very pretty. And of course the plant itself is a gorgeous thing with cascading, flowing look there. I also recently got a different clone of Rhipsalis clavata. This one is got chunkier stem segments than the delicatuliform. If you can see, these are quite a bit thinner, the segments. And these are chunkier. So I'm really excited to have this clone. I've been looking for it for a while. And this particular flower I picked to bring indoors because it was hanging sort of low and I'm not going to be able to enjoy it. This is Fiesta de Flores. I'm not going to be able to enjoy it unless I bring it inside. This was named, I believe, by Dick Kohlschreiber, and I can't remember who the hybridizer is. But there's apparently a holiday locally here in Southern California called Fiesta de Flores, which of course, Feast of Flowers, or Flower Party. That's a really nice sentiment for this flower. It's beautiful. Look at the orange sepals there. Nice. Another one with a pretty green throat. So that's Fiesta de Flores. Well, here we see Carbon County. That's the second day it's been open. Nearby we've got Frida Kahlo. Two really awesome plants. Doris Pittman. wild toucan. This plant just went crazy this year with buds. I had to put that rack there to kind of hold it up off the ground because I don't have it hung from a tree. It's just on kind of a low rack. So there is beautiful wild toucan. And over here on the north side of the house, we have 3 oranges. Satin ruffles. Another primary ignition. This is about, I think, about the last bloom on this plant. It's had quite a few buds this year. Every year it blooms quite a bit. We have my oh my. And we have another bloom on my oh my. It's kind of tucked away in there, hard to see. And check this out. This is my unnamed hybrid. Rather pretty. I don't know the parentage. It was just a random seedling. But it's pretty nice. It blooms pretty well every year. I like the colors. There's another bloom from the same cultivar there. A little bit bigger than the 2 that we just saw. And here we have Spice Takwan, looking gorgeous. This is the 2nd or 3rd day it's been open. Very nice. So that's basically it for today. May 23rd, I believe it is. No, May 24th. Wednesday the 24th of May, 2023. And that is the Epiphyllum garden today. Well, here we are in the garden. It is May 27th, 2023. We have Casper blooming, a really impressive white flower. The flower is gorgeous. The plant is fairly triangular, spiny. The growth is not real nice. Of course, I have a little bit of corking up here. But boy, it's really, look at these trailing branches. They go all the way down to the ground. And this is about 5 feet long, these branches. So there we have Casper. Good grower once it gets going. Next we have my oh my. I have got about a dozen blooms on this plant. Now that it's established, it's really growing well. I've heard other comments from other people saying that it doesn't grow that well for them, but it seems to grow okay for me. It doesn't look fantastic. It looks sort of withery, but we'll see how it does. Once blooming is finished and they give a little rest, then they usually will perk up. And then this is one of my hybrids. It's way in the back there. Gotta get that. This one I dubbed Hybrid A. And I don't know if it's anything exceptional worth registering or not, but you know, it's very pretty. Grows well, grows like a beast. The branches are gorgeous. So I'm keeping it around just for that. So that is my Hybrid A. It had another bloom yesterday that's faded now. I have to look at the tag on this one and I can't quite get to it. But I'll try to put the ID in the description box below. Hopefully I haven't lost my ID. Looks like a clown cross of some sort. And next we have Yellow Tang. It's had a few blooms. It still have more buds to go. So there's Yellow Tang. Really, really lovely. Really delightful. We have another bud there on the same plant. Another there, another there, another there, another there, another in the back. So we've got a lot to go yet on that particular plant. And this is another meadow rose opening. What else can I show you here? This is supposed to be lovely Olivia, but it does not match the pictures that I've seen online, so I don't know. I'll keep it for another year and see if it improves next year. It's got the same general color. The form is different. Maybe I just need more fertilizer. So I'll hang on to that for a year and see how it does. Then we have 3 oranges. This has sort of been open for about 3 days now. Beautiful, vibrant colors. The plant is compact. It doesn't overtake you. This particular bloom I pollinated with My Oh My. I think that's probably a nice combination to do. Here we have satin ruffles blooming again today. George French hybrid. This is a pretty vigorous plant as well. And here we have Fiesta de Flores. Very pretty. This is also a pretty good grower and bloomer. I don't have any troubles with this plant. I can smell it. Oh boy, has a little bit of a scent. I can't say that it's a pleasant scent, but it's a scent. So that is the side of the house. Now let's go to the backyard. Oh, and this is a white from Jim Notice. It's starting to fade. Very vigorous growing plant, as you can see here. Beautiful branches. Gives me a couple flowers every year. This is pretty unusual. It's been a strange year weather-wise. I have my apple blossom amaryllis blooming, and it's almost the end of May. They usually bloom like in March and April. And luckily no snails or anything, slugs have gotten to this one. They seem to love these amaryllis. But yay, nobody got this one. It looks beautiful. It's unscathed by pests. Like it. Here we have my Rhipsalis clavata, one of my more established plants as far as Rhipsalis go. It's starting to bloom from the ends of the segments. Very exciting. I'd never seen this bloom yet. This is the first year. I have another clavata back here. This particular one is not the Delicatula clone. There's another one up there, not really well established, Delicatula. So this one, I'm looking forward to seeing it as well next year. I just bought this from an eBay seller and it's really beautiful. I'm so thrilled with it. Mirage of Eden is her Etsy name. It's Etsy, not eBay, I apologize. So if you're looking for Rhipsalis clavata, the original form, not the Delicatula, you can find it at Mirage of Eden on Etsy. And we've got another bud on Climax here. Here's another clavata, Delicatula. I love the way these blooms look like little snowdrops or little bells. They are very pretty. Okay, so this is the plant I took to show at our show a couple weeks ago, and I gave some cuttings away, so those of you who got cuttings, you can expect some blooms like that eventually. Here we have wild toucan. This thing blooms like a beast. Blooms and grows like crazy. Look at the growth, is so pretty. It's got the reddish tint to the mid veins. And this is wild toucan. Beautiful big flower. It's a very good grower for me in my desert climb. Very pretty. These blooms are past their prime, but they're still looking nice. It's been open for several days. Here we have a beautiful display by Doris Pittman. Another plant that just grows like wildfire for me here. I love it, I love it, I love it. Lots of buds every year. I've probably got a dozen at least blooms on this, and a lot more buds that fell off. You know, that's not uncommon with epis. They'll put out a lot more buds than the plant can sustain. It takes a lot of energy to produce these flowers, so some of the buds will drop. That's just the way it is. And then back behind we have, I'm gonna have to zoom in a little so you can see. This is Frida Kahlo. It's a Watts hybrid, named by Galen Pittman. So there is, move this branch. There is Frida Kahlo, really beautiful cultivar. Showboat crossed with Virginia Strong. Virginia Strong is the one that gives the ruffles to it, from what I understand. And then we have an old Fort Nobar hybrid. This is Rococo. It's kind of a pretty watermelon color with a fuchsia flush in the middle and a green throat. Much prettier than I anticipated. I'm really happy that I got this plant. It's a good grower. The growth looks healthy and nice. It's always a plus for epis because a lot of times the growth looks terrible. And it started blooming for me almost immediately. I had it for less than a year. Here's another bloom. So that is Rococo, an old hybrid from the 50s. And I think that's about it for today. So we'll see if there's anything new tomorrow to look at. Oh my goodness, look at this. We've got 4 blooms on Fiesta de Flores. 1, 2, 3. Each one just as pretty as the one before. And we come over here and we'll see number 4, a little squished in there. A little bit in tight spaces there with a spent bloom above it, but that's another beautiful bloom as well. So let's move on down the line and see what else we've got blooming here today. We still have satin ruffles looking beautiful. This is an unknown. It's got several blooms on it. And there is my hybrid, looking nice today. The other 3 blooms on this are already done. Here we've got a little garden gnome here to help me. Let's go back in the back and see what we have. We have our apple blossom amaryllis. We've got some beautiful chives. That looks like a botanical art print there, the chives. We have climax blooming. I think that's the last flower on this plant for the year. But we did have about 5 or 6 blooms this year. It blooms every year. I just love that plant. When you don't have much blooming, you've always got that one every year. Here's my other clavata. Isn't it very pretty? I just think it's lovely. Looks like long hair on a lady with flowers intertwined in it. And check this out. Doris Pittman. Look at that. Isn't that amazing? I saw all the buds on this plant this year and I knew it would be a nice display, but I didn't know it would be anything like this, like an all at one time cluster. Just gorgeous. Well, there's about 3 or 4 branches that are contributing to that cluster, so Kind of interesting how they all turn toward the same light source and manage to open the same direction. Really beautiful. We also have two other Doris Pittmans open up here. A little higher up. There's a beautiful one. They're facing the other direction. And there's another one back there. We have our Frida Kahlo still open. Still very pretty. So there she is. Eyebrows and all. And check out Rococo. That is turning out to be a real amazingly wonderful surprise. I didn't believe that this plant would be anything exceptional, but I really love it. I think I might have to take some pollen from this to cross onto something else because it's just absolutely beautiful. So there's one beautiful blossom on Rococo. There's another beautiful blossom on the same plant. Oh, very nice. As you see, I still have another few buds to still open on this plant. So we're not quite done with the show. That's going to drop. I can tell by the anemic looking. Yeah, that's no good, and this one will drop. Yep, that one's gone. Okay, so we will be back tomorrow and see what's awaiting us tomorrow. Here we are out on the front porch, and I have a couple of blooms today. This is Marmalade Punch. I believe it's from Evelyn Cherokee, but look how gorgeous that is. Normally, I like dark colors, but this is sort of medium coloration. It's not light. It's really beautiful. Nice flower form. So that's Marmalade Punch. And then we have, this is the only hybrid I've ever registered. This is Sugar Bear. The reason I registered it was I had, this is a seedling that I had first time bloom on, and we went to the spring garden show at the South Coast Plaza, and a lady saw the plant blooming, or the branch. I had a branch that had like 2 blooms on it, and she wanted to buy the branch. I said, well, this is not a named hybrid. Well, she didn't care, so I had to name it right then and there. So I named it Sugar Bear. And I sent this plant over to the Pentaco, but I was working there this weekend and I brought it back home so I could see it bloom. This is only the second time I've seen it bloom. So since it's in circulation, I figured I should register it. Otherwise, I don't know that I would have registered it. It's beautiful. And it's a compact plant. You know, it's not real gangly. A lot of times the white flowering plants are very long, gangly. It's got another bud over here. So anyway, I'm sort of fond of this one. This is my own hybrid, Sugar Bear. We are a couple of days into June, and we still have Yellow Tang going strong. So beautiful. More buds to go on that one. Three more buds. And here is a beauty. This is Kiwi Fellowship. Look at the colors in that. So lovely. And we have our last bloom on Scott Hazelton. We have several blooms on Frida Kahlo. My plant is so big that I just can't really move it. It's back in the back of the yard here. Gets a lot of shade. And we have 3 Fridas blooming today. 1. They're pointing straight down for some reason. 2. And another one way in the back here. 3. So pretty. I should take them off and bring them inside to enjoy them, but I like that they last a little longer when I leave them on the plant. And then here we have Carbon County. Or is this Independence Rock? Wait a minute. No, this is Carbon County. It's a beautiful, beautiful Avalanche Rocky hybrid. So big I have to just back up a bit. There she is. Beautiful. Well, good morning. It's the 7th of June and I woke up to see 4 beautiful yellow tang blossoms. So here's one. And right above it we have 2. And then coming down this direction here, we have number 3. So that's the 3rd bloom. And then down here we have the 4th bloom. So an amazing display. I love this cultivar. Not only is it beautiful, but it blooms quite a bit for me every year. I still have a couple more buds to go for this season. So that's the show for today, June the 7th. And we can't leave the filming session without showing you Sparkle. Isn't that a beautiful red? This is an older cultivar. It's been around for a long time. Medium flowers, a really deep, vibrant red. My plant is sort of small. It doesn't have a lot of branches to it, so it's only got a couple of blooms this season. But ordinarily this plant will bloom very prolifically. So there is Sparkle. And today we have another bloom on Rococo. Very pretty. This plant has turned out to be a real surprise. I didn't really know if I'd like it, but it's absolutely wonderful. It grows very strongly and vigorously. It has a lot of buds for me. I think that's the last bud of the season. And then we have our Frida Kahlo back here is pretty much finishing up blooming. But I just love, even when they're fading, I just love these bell-shaped blossoms. Large, this dark, deep, beautiful color. Let's see if I can, there we go. Even fading, it's still beautiful. So there's our Frida Kahlo. It's June the 12th, and I think we have probably just about the last of our blooms for the year. I have another yellow tang. I probably had a dozen blooms on this plant this year in addition to last year, and I crossed this with some pollen from 3 oranges. So I'm excited about that cross. And let's see what else we have. I have a lot of new starts down here that I potted up this year. So here are the ones that I potted up this week. I did a video on how to make potting mix for epiphyllums and other epiphytic cacti, and also you know, how to pot your cuttings up. So look for that. I'll put a link in the corner up above. Let's see, we have a couple of other nice blooms that just opened today. Here is Evening Delight, one of my favorites. It's called Evening Delight because it has a nice pretty scent in the evening. I love the delicate color, that real pretty peachy pink. Really nice. I haven't seen this bloom for several years. We had a sale a few years back and a lady wanted a mature plant, and I had a huge plant, so I thought I'd divide my plant in 2 and give her half and keep half. And she wasn't satisfied with that. She didn't like the fact that some of the branches were broken off. And I delayed my plant blooming several years just to try to make her happy, so I'm not going to do that again. I've got to make myself happy first. So that's Evening Delight. So beautiful. It's morning instead of evening, so I don't know if there's a scent yet. I don't smell anything out here. You know, I take that back. I have a couple more buds here. Look at this. This is going to be blooming, so I'll have a little more to add to this video. This is Suzanne. That's another one that blooms a little later in the season for me, and it's a gorgeous, gorgeous red. You could probably guess that by the color of the buds there. And that's by the same hybridizer that brought you What a Dream, Dawn Burnett. So let's go out to the back of the yard. I've got a nice bloom out there I want to show you that just opened up today. So how about that? How about that? That is a hybrid that I produced. I lost the parentage, so I don't know what the parentage is behind this hybrid. When I moved from my other house, you know, I lost my records, most of my plants, but I did keep a couple of my hybrids, and isn't that a beautiful thing? Every year I like it a little better. It's so nice and large. The plant is so vigorous, sending up some beautiful new branches. Just really nice. I don't know, maybe I'll have to, if other people want cuttings from this, I'll have to see. If they do, I'll name it and distribute it. And if other people don't want it, I don't see any point to naming it. That's my personal philosophy. If I'm just keeping it for my own enjoyment, there's no sense in registering something that's not going to be out there. But I think this is really nice. I don't know what to name it. Give me some suggestions in case I name this. Every year it looks better. I'm really, really pleased with how it's coming along. Very nice. And today we have among the last of the epis for the year blooming. This is Suzanne. It's a Dawn Burnett hybrid. Just a really absolutely stunning blue-red hue. I know there are no blues in cacti, but there's almost a blue sheen to this lovely red. As opposed to, say, an orange red or a warm red, this is a very cool red. A lot of blue in it, in my opinion. And we have another. This is the second day these have been open, so they're not quite as gorgeous as they were yesterday, but they still look pretty nice. Here's the other bloom. So that is Suzanne. It's a large bloom. You could maybe even say it's extra large. Measuring it across, I'd say it's probably about a 7-8 inch bloom. So I guess that would be considered large. So that is Suzanne. Here we have a very late end of the season bloom. Today is, I believe, 23rd of June. This was marked Sarah Courant, but Sarah Courant, I believe, is pink. This looks more like red chrome. So I've been waiting for this plant to grow and bloom for quite some time, and it's not what I thought it was. I don't know that I could reliably consider it to be red chrome, but it's similar to red chrome. It's definitely not Sarah Courant, so there's another bloom that it's just a no ID. Beautiful though, isn't it? Very pretty red. We've got one more bloom. Let's go out and see that one. Here is the very last bloom of the season. This is Sparkle. Beautiful, beautiful red, an old variety. I can see why they named it Sparkle because it really does. It's beautiful. It is a medium-sized bloom. I'm not too interested in the small bloomers, so this is about the smallest size I like. A nice, pretty medium bloom. So there we have Sparkle. One of the oldies but goodies. One of my favorites. Well, that's it for the 2023 blooming season. I hope you enjoyed the video, and we will see you all again next year.